When 16-year-old Daniel Carter moved to Black Hollow, everyone told him the town was quiet. They didn't say it felt like it was holding its breath. The house stood at the edge of town, surrounded by tall, crooked trees that leaned inward as if trying to listen through the walls. It was old, but not abandoned old. More like forgotten. The kind of place where dust gathered in perfect, undisturbed layers, as if no one had lived there for years, even though someone clearly had. Daniel didn't like it the moment he stepped inside. The air smelled faintly metallic. Night 1. At exactly 2:17 a.m., Daniel woke up. He didn't know what had woken him. There was no loud sound, no nightmare, just a feeling, a heavy awareness that he wasn't alone. His room was dark, except for pale moonlight stretching across the floor. The house was silent. Then he heard it, a soft crackle, static. He slowly turned his head. On the far shelf in the corner of his room sat a small antique radio, brown wood, bent antenna, dials covered in dust. Daniel was certain it hadn't been there earlier. The static grew louder. He sat up slowly. The radio wasn't plugged in. Through the static, something shifted. A whisper. At first it sounded like random noise, but then it formed words. "Daniel!" His heart slammed against his ribs. The voice was raspy, layered, like several people speaking at once. "I can see you." Daniel's throat went dry. He lived alone with his mom. They knew no one here. He swung his legs off the bed, every movement slow and careful. The radio crackled again. "Don't turn around." Daniel froze, because he had heard something else. A soft creak, right behind him. The floorboards shifted under weight, but his door was closed. The whispering turned into breathing. Slow, wet, too close. His phone vibrated violently in his hand. A text message. Unknown number. Unknown. It doesn't like when you move. Daniel's hands trembled. "Daniel, who is this?" The typing dots appeared instantly. "Unknown. You weren't supposed to wake up." The temperature in the room dropped sharply. His breath became visible in the air. The radio volume increased on its own. "Daniel, don't look at it." Something brushed the back of his neck. He spun around. The room was empty. The breathing stopped. The radio went silent. And then it was gone. The shelf was empty. Undisturbed dust. No marks. As if it had never existed. The next morning, Daniel barely slept after that. At breakfast, he tried to tell his mother. "There was a radio in my room." She frowned. "We don't own a radio." "Yes, we do. It was on the shelf." "What shelf?" "In my room." She stared at him for a long moment. "Daniel, your room doesn't have shelves." His stomach tightened. He ran upstairs. His room looked different. There was no shelf, no corner space for one. The walls were flat, bare. Night 3. Daniel set up his phone camera to record while he slept. At 2:17 a.m., he woke again. The static had returned. The radio sat on the shelf. He didn't move this time. The whisper was clearer. "We're closer." The door slowly opened by itself. The hallway outside was darker than it should have been, almost black. From the darkness, something stepped forward, not fully visible, too tall. Its head tilted unnaturally to one side. The radio crackled violently. "Do not look directly at it." Daniel's phone buzzed again. "Unknown. If you see its face, it stays." His entire body shook. The thing took another step. Its limbs were too long. its movements slightly delayed, like a bad video buffering in real life. The radio began screaming static. "Daniel, run!" This time the voice sounded desperate. He grabbed his phone and bolted past the figure. As he ran through the hallway, he noticed something impossible. There were doors. Many doors. More than the house should have. The hallway stretched longer than it had during the day. The house was changing. Behind him, heavy footsteps followed. Slow, patient, enjoying the chase. His phone buzzed again. Unknown, wrong direction. He stopped. The hallway ahead ended in a wall. It hadn't been there before. The footsteps stopped too. Silence. Then breathing, right behind him. Hot, close to his ear. "You looked." Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. "I didn't see your face," he whispered. The breathing turned into laughter. Low, layered. "You will." The recording. The next morning, Daniel checked the footage on his phone. At 2:16 a.m., he was asleep. At 2:17 a.m., he sat up suddenly. But there was no radio in the video, no open door, no figure. Just Daniel sitting in the dark, staring at the empty corner of his room. Then something horrifying happened. In the video, Daniel slowly turned his head toward the camera. His eyes were open, but they weren't his, completely black. And he smiled, a wide, unnatural smile. Then the video glitched. Static filled the screen. Through the distortion, a shape stood behind his bed, tall, bent, watching him. The final frame froze. The entity's face inches from the camera, blurred, but visible enough. And Daniel realized something worse. He remembered turning around. He remembered seeing its face. He just couldn't remember what it looked like. His phone buzzed one final time. Unknown. Now we don't need the radio anymore. The screen went black. Behind him in the quiet room, he heard the whisper again. Not from the corner, not from the hallway, but from inside his own throat. "Daniel!" And this time, he didn't feel afraid.